I'm going to introduce Tiffany Stotts. She is with HSU, and she is going to be covering the Enneagram with you today.
Hi, guys. How's it going? Okay, we're going to have to talk a lot more in this room. This is super interactive. I did this a couple of years ago. Were any of you here for that breakout session? This person's excited. Okay, how many of you have heard of the Enneagram? Let's just be real clear. It's not the same thing as a pentagram. Okay, let's be clear. How many of you have taken an Enneagram test so you kind of know what your number is? How many of you don't know what your number is? Okay. How many of you found out what your number is and you're not happy about it? Awkward giggling over here. Okay, so what I want to do, on your tables, I have a little overview of each of the numbers. And I'm never quite sure who we're going to have in the room. So I don't want to go too much into just the regular types. If you're like, I know all that stuff, give me something else. So we're going to spend a few minutes on that. But then what I want to do is have some really special characters up here in my slideshow that I want to talk about and what their numbers are and how to work with different numbers in your work environment. Okay? So how many of you know that the people you work with are so fun and you love them all so much all the time? If they're sitting next to you, do not look at them. But you spend over 2,000 hours a year with your coworkers. So you can't not just pretend like it'll be fine. You're like, I'll just ignore this person, or why are they ignoring me, or all these things. Like, how many of you have ever met someone that has no self-awareness? I think we all have those things, right? Well, people say like, hey, you do this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I do that. And sometimes those things are funny and like not a big deal, and sometimes those are like relationship, coworker deal breakers. Like, I can't be around this person because I'm going to murder them, right? Like vice versa, okay? So what I want to do is just kind of get an overview of the numbers, and then we're going to talk about how to work with each type in the workplace, okay? How do you guys feel about rearranging this room just a little bit? Okay. How many of you think you're a type 1? Paula, way to go, girl. Type 1, a few. Okay, how many 2s? There should be a lot more. Yep. Hey, I'm a 2. Welcome to the party. Type 3s? Okay. 4s? Christian, you're a 4? Look at that. He's a composer. That makes sense. Okay. 5s? 1. Am I missing anybody? 2. Awesome. 6s? Should be a lot more. Okay. 7s? Awesome. 8s? Okay. And 9s? Ooh, lots of 9s. Okay. I know you just got settled, but I think it would be more fun if we sit with our numbers, okay? So you can sit with your, wait a minute, you can sit with your numbers. You don't have to like be besties with them. All their introverts just died on the inside in this room. But I think it'll make it more fun. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go in order. So there's 3 sections and there's 9 numbers. So 1s, 2s, and 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, 7, 8, 9. Ready, set, go. If you don't know, dealer's choice. And take your papers with you and all that. You don't have to if you don't want to, Rita. You can stay here if you want, but. Does anybody need a paper? We've got extra papers up here. If you're not sure, you'll be fine. You just pick a group. If you're not sure and you're like sweet and introverted, don't sit with the 8s. Love you guys. If you're super extroverted and you want everything to be fun, you're going to want to sit with the 7s. because it's a party all the time with the 7s. Okay, so I want to do a quick little overview of each number. All right, now the Enneagram is not the end-all be-all. It is not everything. It is not do or die by the Enneagram, okay? It's just a tool. It's a personality tool, all right? I like it because there's only 9 options, right? Have y'all done Myers-Briggs? Great. That one stresses me right out because there's like 7,000 combinations, and I'm an introvert and an extrovert like right down the middle. So that doesn't help me very much. I like strengths finders too, but it is what it is. They're like, you're so good at these things, just do those things. I'm like, good, but what about these things I'm really bad at? Like, what do I do with that? Okay. So the Enneagram is kind of like right down the middle. So it tells you things that you're good at, right? But it also shows you your blind spots and things that you don't know that you're doing, or the way you're perceiving the world, or when you have you ever encountered someone and literally just everything about them, you're like, I don't get you, man. Like, I don't get you. The way you talk, the way you walk, the way you respond, how you handle your life is like, I don't get it, right? And usually that person works right next to you, okay? So it's important for us to know the things that we need to work on. And it is super important, I would say even more important, to realize that we all see the world through a different lens. And if you can try to understand how another person sees the world, I think it can cut the conflict like right in half, right? If you can at least, that doesn't mean you have to agree, and that doesn't mean you have to like see it the same way, but you can at least try to understand that people are different. Okay, so a couple of little trick questions. Is no a complete sentence? Where are my 8s? Is no a complete sentence? You don't think so? Okay. Who said no over here? 3s? 2s? 2s, if you say no, do you feel like you have to explain why? Then it's not a complete sentence. Just like somebody just be like, can you do this? No. I'm a 2, and I feel like I'm saying no, and I hate you when I say that, right? So the reason I was asking the 8s is because a lot of time the 8s are like, no, I can't do it. See you later. No disclaimer. Just like, nope, okay. Let's see, what else can I ask you? If you're doing a project, is it important whether or not you get recognition for that project? Where are my 3s at? 3s? How many of you have a list of things to do every day? Yep. If you did something that wasn't on the list, do you write it on the list so you can mark it off the list? Yeah. That seems right. So just real quick, there's 9 numbers, and they're divided into 3s, okay? Triads, right? The 8s, 9s, and 1s are in the anger triad. That sounds gross, but that doesn't mean that you are a rage monster. It just means that those 3 numbers share a relationship with the feeling of anger, okay? 8s, they're the challengers. They go out with their anger or their intensity, okay? The 9s are the peacemakers, and they don't know what to do with their anger. They're like, if I go out, it's going to upset people. If I go in, then I'm upset, so I don't really know. And then the 1s are the perfectionists. They hate that term. Sorry, I didn't write it. And they go in with their 1. They are their biggest critics, right? The thing that makes you a 1, decidedly, is if you have the inner critic, right? That voice in your head that's always yelling at you, okay? I have a friend that's a 1, and she named her inner voice Nurse Ratchet. And she tells her to shut up a lot. She's like, shut it, Ratchet. I don't need that today, okay? So they struggle with anger. The 2s, the 3s, and the 4s are in the heart triad. We're in the feelings group, okay? 2s, 3s, and 4s right here, okay? 2s are the helpers of the world, the befrienders. They're so warm and friendly, and they're going to help you whether you want their help or not, right? How many of my 2s have kids? You have kids? Well, that's a journey. I have 4 kids, right? And I think it's been good for me as a 2, because I feel like I've gotten to a point now where I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that for you, right? But I still almost do it all the time, okay? They're super friendly. The 2s go out, right? So if they're feeling bad, the thing that the 2s, 3s, and 4s struggle with together is shame. That's the feeling they struggle with. The 2s are like, oh wait, quick question. What's the difference between shame and guilt? Any ideas? Throw it out there. One's a consequence. What'd you say? Toxicity. Guilt is something that you feel when you've done something. It's predicated by an action, right? It's like, I did this thing and now I feel bad. Shame is what makes you feel bad for no reason. Shame is, I'm not good enough, I haven't done enough, I haven't achieved enough, my value in and of itself does not feel like enough, okay? So because the 2s, 3s, and 4s struggle with shame, the 2s feel value by being useful. They need to be needed, right? I do things for people because they need me, right? The 3s don't feel like they're good enough unless they are achieving and succeeding and setting goals and getting the gold star. And also the 3s are like, this thing may kill me, but I'm going to make you believe that it was easy, okay? And they're never going to cry in front of you. They will go cry in their car alone, and then they'll fix their makeup and come back into the meeting and just be like, I'm totally fine. But inside, all the alarms are going off, okay? But on the outside, they have it together. And so I think the thing that's hardest for a 3 is telling them to go on vacation. How many of you take work with you on vacation? How many of you are not raising your hand and not being honest right now? Uh-huh. Yeah, the 3s are like, I need to be working on something. Even if it's for fun, I'm not going to like get too far into it. It won't become like a thing, and then it's like their next business, right? So the 3s are achievers. People back here are laughing. They know it's true, okay? If they're not doing something, what good are they? They have no worth to themselves. And then the 4s are in the feelings triad, and they are the deepest feelers of all the numbers, okay? Every other number, imagine the amount of feelings that you have in a day. The 8s are like, I don't have feelings. Feelings are stupid. And the 3s, they don't like them either. The amount of feelings you have in a day, the 4 feels that amount of feelings every hour. It's a wild ride for a 4, and for those around us who are 4s, okay? The 4s, though, they are so much better at empathy than the rest of us. They can sit with you in the feelings. They make amazing counselors and ministers and pastors and people who aren't trying to fix everybody's problems. They're like, I'll just sit with you in the things that are hard, and we'll just be here together, okay? Because they feel like their shame issue is going inside, right? They're like, I just feel weird. I don't feel right. I feel like I'm not enough. I feel like I need to be unique so I can stand out. But then I don't want to be like everyone else, but I don't want to be alone. It's this weird dichotomy. I'm married to a 4, so I understand. Okay? 5, 6, and 7s are in the thinking or the head triad, okay? And their struggle is with fear. They share a relationship with fear. The 5s are the researchers, the observers, the investigators, like the scientists, the experts in their fields. And the best thing that ever happened to a 5 was the invention of the internet. Just like we'll go down a YouTube hole for like 6 hours and we'll come out and be like, I didn't know it was nighttime. Like, wow, this is so fascinating. Anything and everything. Okay? So what the 5s do is they're like, the more I know, the safer I feel about everything in the world. Okay? So that's how they combat that feeling of fear. Okay? I'm going to skip the 6s for just 1 second. Okay? The 7s, is this you guys over here? All of you? He's like, don't look at me. Don't talk to me. The 7s, they don't like fear, so they just like pretend like it's not real. They're like, oh my gosh, I have so many things I have to do. I'm feeling the stress of work. I'm feeling the stress of life. I have so many things to do. So instead of doing any of those, I'm going to go skydiving and like disappear and go do something fun. Okay? So they're like, fear's dumb. I don't like it. So I'm going to fill my life up with fun so that I don't have to be sad all the time. Okay? And then the 6s are actually the only number in all 9 numbers that has an official counter type, meaning the opposite. So there's a phobic 6. Okay, so if it's fight or flight in life, the phobic 6 is flight. Like, hey, things are going down, we're all about to die, I'm out. Okay? Counterphobic 6 is actually a lot of people who go into the military because they see what can go wrong, and they're like, I will run toward my fear and eliminate it before it eliminates me. That's genius. I'm definitely more on the like flight side of things. You know what's really funny? 6s and 7s who are really good friends. Okay? Because the 7s are like, oh my gosh, we should go do this thing. And the 6s are like, have you thought about all the ways we're going to die when we do that? Just like, I don't know. Okay? 6s struggle the most. Everyone can have this, but 6s are more prone to anxiety or to worry or to worst case scenario thinking. Okay? How many of you, after that quick little overview, feel like you're still sitting in the right section? Is there anybody that would like to move to another section? If you want to move, let's take 1 minute, minute and a half. Ready, set, go. Move to your section. Got a couple that wanted to move. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Okay, so I'm a huge like TV movie fan, okay? And so everyone up here, my character list, I hope you know who they are. How many of you watch The Office? Okay, how many of you watch The Office after you've been at the office all day? That's a special kind of torture. I don't know, okay? How many of you watch New Girl? That's important. The other ones you should know. They're like famous movies and stuff like that. But what I want to do is I want to walk us through how to deal with each type in the workplace, and especially when things are stressful in the workplace, okay? So one thing that's cool about the Enneagram is it has all these layers, right? And nothing can describe you fully, right? These are just tools to help us. But one of the things that the Enneagram does is it gives you 2 extra numbers. It gives you a number that you go to when you're feeling stressed, okay? And sometimes it crosses triads and all that stuff, which is fascinating. And then you have a number that you go to when you're feeling relaxed, okay? We don't have time to do all of that, so we're just going to talk about the stress numbers because this is a work thing, right? So we know what it feels like to be stressed at work, okay? So here we go. Workplace relationships are a big deal. You don't get to choose who you work with for the most part unless you're the boss, but we'll see. And then how do you do that? So these are going to be like little cheat codes. Anybody play Nintendo when they were little? Game Genie? Anybody remember that? Just me? Yeah. Literally, you can skip all the hard stuff and just win. So I'm going to give you like the cheat code for how to work with different types. So what I want you to be doing, actually what you could do real quick, again, if they're sitting next to you, just hide your paper. But write down the 2 names of the people that you have the hardest time working with, okay? Write it down, okay? And in your mind, try to figure out what type that person might be, okay? we didn't go super into the characteristics. Let me do that real quick, just real quick. The 7s are super fun, optimists. The 8s are the challengers, which they don't like that either. Really, they just see themselves as passionate and doing things with intensity, but a lot of people perceive that as aggression, right? And so they get misunderstood. Where am I at? 7, 8, 9s. The 9s are the peacemakers. They hate conflict more than anything in the world. It feels like death to them. They would rather change their whole day around to not have to deal with a conflict, okay? Where am I at? Okay. 4s, they're the romantics. They have all the feelings. The 5s are the investigators. They love Excel and spreadsheets and numbers and facts, okay? The 6s are the strategists, the loyalists, right? They don't like things that feel dangerous, all right? 3s are the achievers. 2s are the helpers. And 1s are the black and white rule followers, okay? So be thinking, take a second, and maybe jot down next to those 2 names what type you think those 2 people might be, real quick. With love, right? I'm not trying to judge anyone. I'm just saying people be hard to work with sometimes. Okay. Do you know your people? Okay. You're like, please don't make me do this. All right. So what I want to do, we're just going to go in order. Monica Geller is a classic type 1. Okay. She's cleaning everything. She's mad when the chairs are in the wrong place. She is like, we are scheduled to have fun right now. So now is when we're going to have fun. Right? Very critical, demanding, still fun and friendly to a degree, but wound really tight, right? Like super stressed. Love you guys. You should know that about yourselves, okay? Now, when a 1 is stressed, it's not going to be what you think it is. Normally, your Monica Geller type person, when they go to stress, they become Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is a 4. She is like up in her feelings, right? Look at her face. That's not the same at all, right? So when the 1s are stressed, they suddenly feel all the feelings at once, right? Is this making sense? Okay. They can suddenly start crying, have all the feelings. And here's the thing that they need more than anything else. So if you think you're working with a 1 and you're working with a 1 in stress, even though they're not always great at giving grace and encouragement because they're very critical, they need grace and encouragement to come out of their type 4 spiral. The 1s are super critical, but they think that they're helping you by critiquing you. They're losing their minds over here. Can y'all hear this? It's like the crazy laugh, the maniacal laugh, like okay? It's so true, right? Because the 1s, they don't know that they're being hard on you out here because they're being even harder on themselves, right? And so when they're looking at you, they see all the imperfections. Immediately, all the imperfections. And that's a heavy burden, right? To be walking around being like, everything's wrong all the time. It's wrong all the time. Okay? So when they give you criticism, they should be doing it in love, hopefully, but it doesn't always feel like that to the rest of us. It feels like nothing's ever good enough. Okay? So when they're coming at you with all their 1 and then they flip out and they're having a bad day, they are in a swarm of feelings. Okay? So bring them grace and encouragement and help them to see that that's helpful for the rest of us. We need you to be encouraging as well. Type 1s. How many of you on your paper have a 1 written down as your problem person? A couple people? Okay, we're going to keep going. All right, Jessica Day is a type 2. New girl? Anybody? She's a teacher and she's so fun and she like helps everyone even though they don't want to be helped. But, and I'm a 2. Love you, but if you push me too far, I will destroy you. I will straight up destroy you. And it really is like the Hulk, like when he goes into Hulk and then he comes back into being Banner, right? He doesn't remember what he's done. It's very true of the twos, because we don't know how scary we are when we Hulk out on you, right? How my twos feeling this morning? Testimony, right? How many of you are married, have significant others? Are they the ones that are like, please don't explode again. I'm begging you not to Hulk out, right? When was the first time you realized that you're scary? When they called you out on it? Were they just like, hey, you're scary? That day you murdered me. Yeah, that seems right. But it's not what you think it's going to be, right? You think this kind, caring, helpful person is going to be like, hey, let's just like talk and whatever. But instead we're like you're dead, right? Like sniper from the back, okay? Twos. What is it that's pushing you to the breaking point? I'll go first. Nobody ever saying thank you. How many of you have a 2 written down on your list? Oh, everyone loves us. Oh my gosh. Christian has a 2 written down. That's okay. You go to 2 in stress, so we'll get to you in a minute. Yeah, thank you goes a really long way. Okay? If you have a 2 that's hulking out, they probably feel overcommitted. Some of that's our own fault, doing things for everyone. They didn't ask for our help. Okay? Also, if you're helping everyone all the time, you're actually enabling them. That's a different breakout session, okay? I'm just saying, you don't have to help everyone, okay? Thank the 2s. What are my little things I wrote down here? They need to be reminded to take care of themselves, okay? When you ask a 2, let me ask you guys, if you had a day to yourself, what would you do? Silence. 2s don't know what they need. Like, they don't know because they feel like they should be doing something for someone else all the time, right? Which actually a form of pride, if you really get down to it, because you're looking at everyone saying, you guys need everything, I don't need anything, which is not true. So if you have a 2 that's hulking out, remind them to take a day off and not do anything for anyone else, okay? All right, Schmidt is a 3. That episode where he's like, ask me what I did all day. I crushed it. That's what I did all day. I was crushing it. Nick's like, don't say that. Don't say I'm crushing. He's like, I crushed it all day. Because Schmidt is an achiever. He works at, what is it? It's some inappropriate name. I can't think of it. He works all day. He's obsessed. He has a binder full of blazers where he can pick which blazer he wants to wear for different events. You know, he had to wear the one that had the lightning strike on the back, right? He tells Nick at the end, I don't care what time it is, if you ever need a suit in the middle of the night, you come wake me up, right? Success, achievement, okay? But when the 3s freak out, they become Schmidt on the couch, just eating blocks of cheese, okay? And by this I mean 3s go to 9 when they are in stress, okay? And this is like a visual representation of giving up, okay? The 3s who are usually amazing at everything, killing it, crushing it, if they reach their limit, they just go dark, right? They disappear. And they're like, you know what? Everyone is stupid, and feelings are stupid, and I have no more tears left, and tears are stupid. So I'm just going to go get in my pajamas and collapse for a few days. 3s, how we feeling? Accurate? Ice cream, 100%. If you really want to kill it on the calories, just go for Haagen-Dazs, because it's like 1,000 calories a pint. I know that. Okay, I'm a 2, but I have a really strong 3 wing. We don't really have time to get into wings today, but your wings sort of add another flavor to your personality. So I'm helpful, but I'm also really intense about being successful and being an achiever. Okay, when you go to 9, you can't make decisions, right? You're on like the unhealthy side of 9. So 3s who are usually very sure-footed and clear and intentional, they're suddenly like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know which kind of toilet paper to buy. Every decision is like mission critical, right? And they like can't do it, right? So if you're feeling that, you're not doing well. You need to take a day off, okay? Don't take work with you, okay? And I totally forgot to mention something. When you go when you go to your stress number, you're going to the unhealthy characteristics of that number, okay? So like when I'm saying 3s, you become 9s, it's not the good parts of the 9. It's the like, I'm shutting down parts of the 9, okay? Indecisive, can't handle conflict, all right? You're eating blocks of cheese, okay? Kanye is a 4 because he's an artist, right? He has a lot of feelings, has a lot of opinions, lots of projects. But when 4s are not doing well, they become your passive-aggressive mother-in-law. And that's not totally fair. My mother-in-law is here today, and I love her dearly. I warned her that this slide was up here. That's actually more my mom, my actual mom. 4s go to 2 when they're stressed out. You're thinking, oh, that would be nice to go to a 2. No. The 2 is like clingy and like, you don't love me and you don't want to come to my house. And why aren't you helping me? My husband's a 4 and we have 4 kids. My youngest 2 are identical twin girls and they are 4 years old. So it's super relaxing in my house, right? My husband goes to 2 in stress. He is the most unhelpful helper, right? He's like, what do you need? What do you need? I'm going to fix it. We're going to do this thing. And I'm like, I don't want any of that. Like, you want to help, but you're like scaring me, okay? He's like, why won't you let me help you? You don't love me. And I'm like, you're not making it better. Like, you're spiraling, okay? It's not what you think it's going to be, right? 4s who are usually like, kind of in their own sphere of creation and art and stuff like that, they suddenly become clingy and demanding, okay? My 4s right here, how do you feel about that? Brooke, Christian, are you a 4? Tell me your name right here. Victoria, what do you think? 100%. That's a great statistic, 100%. I'm good with that, okay? So if you're pushing a 4 too far, they're going to come at you just a little bit. How many of you think you have a 4 on your list? Interesting. Okay. 5s. Dwight is a 5. He knows everything about everything. Bears, Beats, Battlestar Galactica, right? All the things. He is like an encyclopedia full of information. He is an emotional robot to some degree, okay? That doesn't mean the 5s don't have feelings, but that is not their first mode of response because they're in the thinking triad, right? When they go into stress, they're trying to resolve things with logic and reasoning and rationale, but sometimes logic and reasoning and rationale doesn't take into account that humans are a mess. And sometimes we need more than just logic, we need relationship. Okay, the episode where Dwight teaches everyone a lesson by setting the office on fire, right? Right? He's like, you needed to learn. And it's like, you didn't play that out very well, okay? So a normally rational thinking 5, they know that they're not as much fun because they're making you look at the spreadsheet and they're making you look at the facts, right? And they're like, this doesn't make sense. I know that's not fun, but here it is. So when they're stressed, the 5s do like this weird flip-flop, and they actually become the person that Dwight wishes he was sometimes, and he becomes Michael Scott. Michael's a 7. 5s go to 7 in stress, okay? And they become less rational, and they use humor to like avoid awkward situations, right? Michael as a 7, he's my 7 example too in a second, but like I can't watch the Stotts episode. Anyone? I can't watch it. He promises everyone a college education and then just has to like walk away. I can't do it. I have to skip it, okay? Talk about avoiding something and not dealing with it, okay? 5 goes to 7. They use humor to avoid dealing with sad or hard conversations. They kind of just want to escape. And sometimes they're crying alone at the beet farm, right? That episode where Dwight's crying in the room. Crying. I said crying. 5s, be careful that you're not avoiding emotions at all costs, right? It's okay to have feelings. Now, feelings don't have to like run the show. A 5 and a 4 friendship, that's really interesting because the 4s are feeling everything and the 5s are like, that doesn't make sense. Well, feelings don't make sense a lot of times. How many of you think you work for a 5 or work with a 5? There's not very many 5s statistically. Like the most common Enneagram number globally is a 6. There are more 6s in the world than any other type, followed closely behind by the 2s and the 9s. There's a shortage of 5s and 4s. So that doesn't surprise me that our percentages kind of make sense for that today, okay? I'm not going to ask the 5s what they think about that because they hate being called out in front of the room. So I'm going to just leave you to peace. All right, the 6s are Rex from Toy Story. Like, what if this happens? What if we all die? What if I get another dinosaur and he's friendlier or nicer than me? Right? The 6s have a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, okay? Worst case scenario thinking. I did a workshop one time and asked a group of 6s, what's the most irrational scenario that they ran through their minds like in the last 2 or 3 days? And one of them was like, every time I drive through the bank and I put my debit card and my license in the little shooty thing, every time I'm worried they're going to give it to someone else and they're going to steal my identity and they're going to drain my bank account and all of my savings and my investments, and I will have nothing to give my children and my grandchildren. And it's just like this like crazy fear spiral. And I was like, I've never thought about that ever. Never, ever. Right? The 8s are like, somebody did that, just sue them. Right? Well, I just come after you. Give me my stuff. Right? Like, the 6s are like, what if this happens? Okay? But the 6s eventually get to a point where they're so frustrated with the fear and so frustrated with the doubt and the anxiety that they just go to this. The T-Rex from Jurassic Park. Okay? 6s go to 3 in stress. So the normally cautious, checking on the details 6 turns into a 3, and they're like, you know what? We will just handle the situation, and we will take care of business. And if someone dies in the process, so be it. 6s, how we feeling? Have you ever snapped? Have you ever done that? T-Rex mode? Yeah. That's not what you think is going to happen. I don't ever think that Rex is going to do that. He's so fun and sweet, but then he's eating people alive, right? Have you ever done that to someone? 6. Yeah, okay. Interesting correlation here. I'm going to get to you 9s. But 3s, 6s, and 9s, you share the same 3 numbers in different rotations. Okay? You go in that triangle just in a different order. All the other numbers shoot to different parts. But the 3s, 6, and 9s, you share each other's numbers. Okay? All right. So even though you're like T-Rexing out, you still got that low simmer of anxiety underneath that, worrying about what the backlash will be of you T-Rexing on someone. But if you go too far, that's just what it's going to be. You're going to handle it. Okay? All right. 7s, Michael Scott. The most FOMO man in the world. Right? What is FOMO? Fear of missing out. He cannot be left out. Like, he has to be in the group. He wants to do all the things that are fun. He wants everyone to like him. What's the thing where he's like, do I want to be feared? Yes, but I want people to fear how much they love me. Right? That's Michael Scott. Right? So 7s are avoiders generally with things that are not fun. They're like, that's not fun. That doesn't look exciting. The 7's greatest fear is doing the same thing over and over and over every day for the rest of their life. They are so afraid of being bored. What do you think about that? Yeah? Have you ever just taken a trip? Suddenly. Have you ever just gotten on a plane? Been like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to go. You've done that? Seriously. That's terrifying to me. Where did you go? Arizona. I'm going to just get on a plane. Just because. Yeah. Were you like stressed in your normal life at that point? You're just having fun. How many of you 7s, let's say you had an open Friday night. You didn't have any plans with anyone, and you were just going to spend the night alone. How are you feeling? Not doing that. I'm not doing that. That's what she said. All the 7s that I know on a Friday night, they're like, I've got like 4 parties, so I'm going to go to this first one, and if it's a bummer, I've got 3 other options, right? I'm going to go where the most fun is happening, okay? The only problem with the 7s is you can sidestep a lot of things over time, but eventually you're going to have to deal with things that are not fun. And you need the tools to do that, okay? So if you're avoiding everything, then you turn into Toby, okay? And he is the worst buzzkill in the world, right? And that's why Michael hates him so much. What number is Toby? He's a 1. That's why Michael hates him so much. Because he's in HR. Anybody in HR in here? Paula? Don't people hate you sometimes? They're like, why are you the way that you are? Right? But it's because it's black and white thinking and rules, and this is the right way to do it, and this is the wrong way to do it, and I don't care if it kills us all, we're going to do this workplace bullying training, right? That's why Michael hates it, because it's not fun. It's horrible and boring, right? And that's why he throws these weird fits in the middle of the office, right? 7s. Some things aren't fun. It's a bummer. But we do need you because the 7s make everything fun. They really do. But just watch, because sometimes if you're going too far, you can lay aside your Mr. Fun Time guy and become a buzzkill. Poke holes in everyone's plans, right? Have you ever experienced this? Where you become obsessed with the details. They're like, please stop talking to me. Please stop, okay? Little cheat codes for you. Sometimes the 7s, when they're feeling really stressed, they will publicly point out other people's flaws. So just remember that. You're like, yay, I'm fun, until I hate you. And then we're not good, okay? How many of you think you work with a 7? Have you ever had to try to have a serious conversation with a 7? Do they make jokes in the middle of it to get out of it? Have you ever had to have a serious conversation with someone and you just can't do it? You're like, it's too awkward. I can't do it. You're like, see you later, bud. And you're like, I hate that person, right? That's called avoiding. You need to work on that, okay? If someone comes to you with something serious, just buckle your seatbelt. You can do it, okay? Have you seen those memes? It's like, I had really horrible things happen when I was younger, but at least it made me funny, right? Like, that's what we're talking about right now. Okay. 8s, Darth Vader. Now listen here. I actually don't think this is true. But 8s, I can relate because I go to 8. I'm a 2 and I go to 8. But something you need to remember, sometimes you're coming across as aggressive and not passionate. You think you're being passionate. This girl right here, she's like, I don't care, right? Such an 8, okay? But sometimes people will look at you and be like, that was blunt, or that was rude, or that was intense, and why do you hate me, right? And oftentimes the 8s are like, I didn't mean any of that. I just want you to do your job, right? Like, oh, we wouldn't have a problem if you were just doing your job, right? Now, 8s, where do you think this intensity is coming from? Passion, because you want things to be done well, right? You don't want there to be a void of leadership, right? If there's a group of people and you feel like no one's leading, how does that make you feel? Panicked a little bit? Like, I would rather take charge than go over the edge of the cliff with all these people who don't know what they're doing, right? Okay, has anyone ever told you that you're scary and intense? Intimidating. Okay, you know what? That is a super valid point. Could y'all hear what she said? She gets called the B word a lot. That's not fair, because in our world, we praise and promote the male 8s. We don't call them names. But if you have a female 8 who is a boss queen, they get that title. So I'm sorry that you're carrying that. That's not fair. But I do think I will give you a word of advice. If you're talking to someone and they look frightened, take some cues and be like, maybe I should dial it back just a little bit, right? Because let me tell you something important, 8s. There are other numbers that will not be able to hear what you're saying if you're scary. We haven't gotten to the 9s yet, but the 9s hate conflict so much. It feels like death, right? So if you come at a 9 like we're about to brawl up in here, they are going to shut down completely. And they may never be honest with you about anything because they are so overcome by stress and fear. Okay? So, if you truly care about things being done well, you're going to have to, I'm sorry, but the 8s, you're going to have to do the most work to be approachable because you can be a little scary. Okay? And I understand that because I'm hulking out sometimes, right? But I don't mean it. I'm not trying to destroy you. You're just intense. You just have an intensity, okay? So what's interesting, though, is normally when the 8s are like, yeah, that's what we do. That's who we are. When you're feeling stressed, though, you turn into C-3PO. Has anybody watched Star Wars? Anybody? Okay. What is C-3PO known for? Being a bummer. He has all the information. He knows everything. C-3PO is a 5, okay? So when the 8s are crashing and burning and things are not working out here, they disappear into the land of research. And they will, it's almost like, on those crime shows when they have the, investigation board and they have, the red going everywhere and they're like, okay, what's happening here? This is not working here. And why didn't this work? And this person's stupid. And then this whole thing over here. Right, trying to figure out what's going on, but they don't realize that what's going on is too much intensity, oftentimes, right? So if you feel like you're shutting down, 5s also they like to retreat, right? 8s have 2 gears, on and killing it or dead, right? There's 2 gears, okay? So if you're dead and crashing, you've gone too far. Right? You also need rest, even though you think rest is for the weak. Okay? Right? How many of you get up at early hours to do things? Almost all of you. Yep. Are you 8s back here too? No. Okay. No. Okay. All right. So if you go too far and you're trying to fix everything with information, you can research for a little bit, but then you got to just move on. All right. We're almost done. Last one. Anybody watch Ted Lasso? So good. Such a great character. Ted's a 9, for sure. He's like, hey, bud, everything's great and we're good and my life's perfect, but it's falling apart, but it's totally fine. I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to have panic attacks every day, okay? Not dealing with the issue, okay? 9s are so sweet and calm and nice usually, but the thing that we do to the 9s that's not fair is we don't give them space to have a voice. They have the quietest voice out of all the numbers. I think the worst thing you can do is ask a 9 in a group of people where they want to go eat. this girl's having a panic attack right here in the middle. Yeah, hey, it's like, hey, you guys decide for the whole room where we're going to eat. They're paralyzed back here in the back, okay? Why is that a hard decision? Anybody? Anybody in the nines? Why is it hard to make a decision for the group? People pleasers. What'd you say? What is the wrong decision? Which people? Everyone. Yeah, it's like no matter what I do, someone's not going to be happy, and then it's going to be my fault, and I'm going to be the reason. It's not just hating conflict, it's being the source of conflict that is even more debilitating, I think, right? So remember, threes, when you're going to 9 and you're not doing well, this is happening to you a little bit, okay? So when the 9s are stressed, they spiral even further into worry and anxiety. This is Marlin from Finding Nemo, right? The ocean is big and scary, right? We're not going to the drop-off. The drop-off is not happening, right? So your normal fears are enhanced by extra fear of not measuring up or people-pleasing and all of those things, okay? So if you are working with a 9, you have to remember that when they're panicking, fear is in charge. Fear's driving the bus, right? Fear and worry of upsetting someone or causing conflict, okay? So, 8s, if you have to confront a 9, take it easy, right? Because they will shut down hard. I was that kid. I played sports growing up, and I was that kid that didn't respond well to the coach screaming in my face, right? One year I had this coach. She was so sweet. She never yelled at us, but she was really clear, and we went to state. I'm just saying. And then the next year, I had a coach that was the scariest person I've ever met in my entire life, and she screamed in our faces, and we had a horrible record, and everyone was scared. So I'm just saying, you can bring challenge, but also bring support, okay? That's especially important between numbers that are radically different from each other, okay? 8s, be gentle. 9s, your voice is important. We need you, and we need you to speak up. And sometimes that means gathering up your courage and going into a room where you have to talk to people who are CEOs and bosses, and they're a little bit scary. But you can do it. How many of you think you work for a 9 or work with a 9? Okay. All right. That was a lot of information, okay? And there's so many levels and layers and nuances of all this, but hopefully you took away something that will help you in your workplace relationships. Hopefully you learned something about yourself, right? Where you can be like, maybe I do that and I shouldn't do that. And I would also encourage you, a friend or a family member or somebody you have a good relationship with, ask them to tell you what your blind spots are. Ask them to tell you, hey, are there things that I do that I don't know that I'm doing? And just be ready to have a good conversation. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming to the summit.